Good afternoon to one and all present here. It's a fantastic afternoon for sure because I have somebody uh, from Russia today, which happens to be a dear friend of India, without a doubt. And the relationship goes beyond the trade, it goes beyond geopolitics, but then globally we have, got into a relationship which is unbreakable for sure. And I'm so glad and happy to have with us today one of the professor on a very important topic, right? Which is the whole world is talking about it today. And I've got in connect with Professor Galina at the very right time to discuss on this very important topic. Well, I extend my heartfelt welcome to Professor Galina Fertova, who has joined all the way from Russia to engage on a session which is very, very apt considering the scenarios today. And we have coined it very beautifully foreign economic activity in the EAEU. For those who don't know what is EAEU, it's Eurasian Economic Union, and we're talking about customs, tariff, and duties. Well, for India, this customs, tariff, and duties has been a common word in the last 3-4 months, right? And that's a part of it. I mean, when as a country you are involved in a lot of economic activities crossing your national borders, and this has come on the very right time. I think entrepreneurs of my batch, of my students of this institute, who wants to get into this global entrepreneurship should have a basic details about the tariffs, the customs, and the duties, and how the international trade works, and all of it. And as I said, we recently developed collaborations with one of the universities in Russia, and I'm so glad to have Professor Galina talking on this a very, very important topic. So, on behalf of all the students who have joined, teaching staffs, faculties, and the management, I extend my heartfelt welcome to Ms. Galina Fertova to this one of the session at our platform named IRE, which stands for Innovation, Research, and Entrepreneurship of the prestigious GIBS Business School, Bangalore, India. So without taking much time, the platform is all yours, Professor Galina, and we are really excited to hear from you. Over to you.
So, dear Professor Guru, thank you very much for this great opportunity to share with you and your students my knowledge, and I do it with very much pleasure. So, let's begin. I hope it will be useful, and I hope for your students this information I'm going to share will be very, very important for their future activity. So, as it was announced by Professor Guru, the topic we are going to speak today is the topic of foreign economic activity in the Eurasian Economic Union. And main issues we are going to speak about is customs tariff and duties. So, the purpose of this meeting is to introduce to you the legal mechanism for regulating foreign economic entrepreneurship with the Eurasian Economic Union countries. And it includes several tasks as introduce main regulatory instruments, show the features of customs regulation, and show the essence of tariff regulations. First of all, it is important to mention and say a few words about legal framework of the Eurasian Economic Union. Eurasian Economic Union is an international organization for regional integration, possessing international legal personality, and established by the Treaty on the Eurasian Economic Union. It is important to mention that EAEU was established in 2014 and actually was developed in the customs union of three independent countries. Previously, it was adopted as customs union, and now from 2014, it is Eurasian Economic Union. So formation of the Eurasian Economic Union have a long period for checking the most effective mechanism for this economic integration. So nowadays, from 2014, we are living as a single economic integration, Eurasian Economic Union. And the main purpose of this union is a comprehensive modernization, cooperation, and increasing the competitiveness of national economies of our countries. So if we are speaking about a legal basis for this union, there is a special document which is called Treaty on the EAEU, a form of the trade and economic integration among member states that provides, first of all, a common customs territory within which there is the common customs tariff of the whole Eurasian Economic Union, and also common measures regulating foreign trade in goods with third parties. And these measures and common tariff are in effect nowadays, and we are working and living with this special regulatory mechanism for our countries. And if we're speaking about the Eurasian Economic Union, it is also important to mention that there are no any application in our mutual trade, any customs duties or some kind of taxes in the trade between our countries. No tariff regulatory measures, non-tariff or special protective anti-dumping or some kind of countervailing measures. And speaking about our countries, also too important explain what is it common customs territory. Actually, the customs territory of the Union comprises the territories of the member states, and on the picture you can see that it includes all countries that are included in and partners to this Eurasian Economic Union. And the external border of the Union runs along the external borders of the member states. The only country that doesn't share a border with other EAEU member states physically, geographically, is Republic of Armenia. Therefore, the shared border is not a physical one, but a legal one in terms of customs formalities. If we are speaking about countries within the Eurasian Economic Union, you can see that there are 5 countries nowadays: Republic of Armenia, Republic of Belarus, Republic of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyz Republic, and Russian Federation. An area of 20 million square kilometers belong to this integration, and 15% of Earth land area also covered by this economic union. And population of our union is exceed 183.3 million people. And so this union nowadays possesses the largest reserves of natural resources such as gas, oil, forests, etc., etc., etc. So if we are speaking about interaction of member states with each other and with third countries, it is important to explain that we have a common single market. So it means a set of economic relations within the Union, which ensures freedom of movement of goods, services, capital, and labor. And these provisions are fixed in the agreement of the Eurasian Economic Union and are observed by the countries. Speaking about foreign trade policy, so it is functioning on the basis of most favored nation treatment, and the free trade regime for goods within the meaning of GATT 1994, and it is established in trade with a third party on the basis of an international treaty of the Union. And tariff preferences for goods originating from developing countries and or least developed countries also are used uniformly. And speaking about second question of our lecture, foreign economic activity as entrepreneurial activity. So here on the slide, you can see that there are different opportunities to provide this activity. It can be in the form of foreign trade. It is one of most frequently used activity. And investment also is very important for our countries, and other activities, including industrial cooperation in the era of international exchange of goods, information, and also work, services, intellectual property, including different kind of exclusive rights for this. So it may be pursued by various persons. So purposes such as satisfying material and spiritual needs, generating income and maximizing profits, and pursuing socially beneficial goals, including such spheres as educational, charitable, scientific, religious, etc. So when we're speaking about entrepreneurial activity in a market economy, an entity has the right to engage in foreign economic activity, both financial and non-financial enterprises, government agencies, and non-profit organizations, and also individuals. And speaking about legal regulations in the EAEU, that it is adopted on the basis of the Treaty on the Eurasian Economic Union, and as an amendment to this treaty is adopted a customs code of the Eurasian Economic Union, and also there are acts constituting the law of the Union, and the international treaties and acts in the field of customs regulations are also form the legal basis for the regulation in the Eurasian Economic Union. And all these documents are working on the principles of unified customs regulation for all 5 countries, equality of persons in the movement of goods across the customs border in the Union, and clarity, precision, and consistency in the performance of customs operation. And moreover, transparency in the development and application of international treaties and acts in the field of customs regulations and their harmonization with the norms of international law. So, speaking about last principle, it is one of the most relevant trends for Eurasian Economic Union, just for the purpose of future development of this union. It is harmonization with the international law. This is the trend for different spheres of the union, and for the development of entrepreneurship and economic level of the union. So if we are speaking about types of foreign economic activity, it can be in the form of foreign trade activity on different bases. It's not only just purchase or barter or some others. It can be different kind of production cooperation, both in the form of investment or in the form of locating different kind of manufacturing projects, or some kind of financial support. It also can be done. No limits for the development, just in the purpose of developing the economic level of the community. And who can be the participants in the foreign economic activity? It can be any entities and sole proprietors, companies of various types, such as LLCs and joint stock companies, sole proprietorship, or engaged in the export and import of goods. It is important to mention that the legal forms of companies are synchronized, and uniform approach to the legislative share is ensured within the community. And also there can be different kind of manufacturers, exporters, importers, including small and medium-sized businesses also. And organization providing services in the field of foreign economic activity. Also, there is no limit. It can be some kind of banking, consultation, transportation, insurance, etc., etc., etc. So, speaking about documents in foreign economic activity, there are a huge number of different documents, such as various contracts on different bases as purchase and sales contracts, leases, or international leasing agreements, contracts for the provision of services, or, for example, international transportation. There can be different kind of permits that are obligatory for entering the customs territory in the form of licenses, certificates of conformity, or permits for relevant ministries. Invoices and packing lists are also the integral part of the documents for foreign economic activity, as it is usually used in the international trade. Payment documents are in the form of some kind of payment order or bank statement. They also are using different kind of transport documents. Depends on the means of transport which are used for the transportation. For example, SMR waybill or bill of lading or railway waybill, TR carnet, or etc. Also important documentation about the object of the trade, for example, about goods, drawing, data sheets, diagram, instructions for usage to understand what kind of goods are transported across the customs border for customs authorities. And documents from the career agent and forwarder also important for the purpose of checking by customs authority their payments and their legality and the origin of goods, which is also important for the international trade issues. And additional papers, senders, export declaration or sales, commercial offer or manufacturer's cost estimate also are used for the purpose to cross the customs border, as these documents can give reliable information for customs authorities. So, speaking about customs regulation, also it is important to mention that all these issues are established within the customs code of the Eurasian Economic Union. So within this document, we can read that in the Eurasian Economic Union, we are using uniform customs regulation, and it includes such as the establishment of the procedure and conditions of the movement of goods across the custom border of the Union, because we have the uniform single customs border, that procedure conditions will be equal and the same for all countries. Their presence and use on the customs territory of the Union and beyond its customs border. Speaking about beyond its customs border, it means that we have specific customs procedure that sometimes determine the customs state of the goods in accordance with the declared customs procedure, for example, for export or for different kind of processing outside the customs territory. So we have nowadays, in accordance with the customs code, 17 customs procedures. They are mainly harmonized with the revised Kyoto Convention, and main issues of this convention are implemented in our customs code. This is one more example of harmonization of customs regulating mechanism in the Eurasian Economic Union with the international law. And so there is a special rule how goods can leave the customs territory of the Union. Speaking about temporary storage of goods, this situation also can be in case if there is no necessary documents or not all issues were fulfilled in accordance with the legislation to cross the customs border. For example, no documents, no payments, or something problem to identify goods for the customs purposes. In this situation, goods can be put for temporary storage. The duration of this storage is not longer than 2 months. Then, under the decision of the customs authorities, it can be prolonged for 2 more months. It increases the limited time for temporary storage, after which the decision should be made. So also there is a special regulating mechanism for customs declaration. And speaking about customs declaration, it is mainly doing in the electronic form, and release of the goods and other customs operation for crossing the customs border. And also there is a special regulated mechanism for paying of customs duties, special anti-dumping countervailing duties if they are for these goods, and to conduct customs control, all in accordance with the code of customs code of the Eurasian Economic Union. We have 7 forms of customs control which can be used for this purpose. Just some kind of checking or goods checking of documents, etc. And also there is a special regulatory mechanism of power relations between customs authorities and persons exercising the right of ownership, use, or and disposal of goods on the customs territory of the Union or beyond its border. I already explained about this situation. So speaking about tariff regulation, so the measures applied in accordance also with the Treaty on the Union in relation to goods imported into the customs territory of Union, and including the application such payments as such instruments, as import customs duties, tariff quotas, tariff preferences, and tariff benefits. So, speaking about import customs duties, they are established in the uniform customs tariff. Quotas are distributed according to established rules. For example, quotas are introduced annually for cattle. For example, if I'm speaking about tariff preferences, they are implied uniformly according to established rules and lists and agreed rates. And for example, nowadays, developing countries are receiving 25% discount on the customs duty amount, and least developed countries receive 100% exemption from customs duty. So, since customs duty is included in the calculation of VAT and excise taxes, so it is quite significant amount. And speaking about tariff benefits, they are also established in accordance with the special agreement within Eurasian Economic Union. We have some benefits as a permanent one. For example, inputs into enterprise authorized capital, for example, are granted these benefits. Also, sometimes we have benefits on a temporary basis, such as for the construction of a large facility on the territory of the country, or something of that kind. So, if we're speaking about a non-tariff regulation, so they are established also in accordance with the Treaty on the Union, and there is a limited number of regulated mechanisms that can be used, no others. So they are prohibitions on the import and or export of some kind of goods, quantitative restrictions on the import or export of goods, exclusive right to export and or import goods, automatic licensing, or it's usually called monitoring of the export or import of goods, permit-based import on or export of goods. So they are all these regulative mechanisms is established in accordance with the treaty, and no other measures can be introduced by the country. And measures to protect the internal market. So we are using the territory of the Eurasian Economic Union three types of measures as special protective measures, anti-dumping measures, compensatory measures, and other measures as a whole. But usually other measures means that there can be some kind of seasonal duties. This is the limited number of measures that can be used to protect. So all these measures are used mainly for the on the basis of the World Trade Organization, and they are introduced on the basis and in relation to the goods originating from the third countries and imported on the customs territory. To introduce these protective measures, especially investigation should be provided on the basis of the World Trade Organization regulative mechanism established in a specific agreement of the World Trade Organization. So if we are speaking about other regulatory measures, there can be different kind of technical regulation measures. If we are speaking about these measures, they are most frequently used nowadays in the international trade. And also we have the same measures in the Eurasian Economic Union. The main purpose of technical regulation is the providing the protection of the citizens of our countries. And all these measures are used on the legal basis and absolutely on the national regime. So the same technical regulation is also used and introduced for domestic production and also for importers. And strictly national basis as it is determined in accordance with the World Trade Organization. Speaking about second one, sanitary, veterinary, sanitary and quarantine phytosanitary measures. So also it is quite obvious mechanism for international trade, and also we are using it on both ways. First of all, we have uniform measures for checking the goods which are crossing the customs border on these issues, and also the some kind of temporary measures on these issues can be introduced. But the main purpose is the safeness of the citizens of the country, and it can be used only on the temporary basis if it is necessary. Speaking about export control measures and regarding measures on military products, so it is used on the basis on the international agreement of our countries. For example, Russia possessing nuclear weapon. That's why our country is partner to different international agreement on these issues, and that's why we are using these measures. And radiation requirements, which is used as checking a level of radiation at the moment of the crossing of the customs border. And next question of our lecture, common customs tariff, what is it and how it works? So actually it is a set of customs duty rates applied to goods imported into the customs territory of the Union from third countries, systematized in accordance with the Unified Commodity Nomenclature of Foreign Economic Activity of the Eurasian Economic Union. So this instrument is the most traditional of state regulation for foreign economic activity, the same we are using in the Eurasian Economic Union. And the customs tariff is the only economic instrument of state regulation of foreign trade covering its entire range of goods and used by all countries worldwide. So it is the most easiest traditional instrument, the same we have now in the Eurasian Economic Union. Speaking about the structure of this instrument, you can see it on the slide. Actually, in the Eurasian Economic Union, we are using simple single column tariff. So it means that a uniform duty rate is established in the customs tariff corresponding to each specific commodity item in accordance with the code of based on the HS nomenclature. There is no connection with the origin of goods or some other issues for the rate or the duty. This is just the easiest instrument for this purpose, I think, in the international trade, because in some countries and territories, you used more combined and complicated customs tariff. We are using just simple one. And speaking on more information, so speaking about the structure, also important to mention that the HS code and item name is absolutely harmonized with the harmonized commodity description and coding system of the World Customs Organization. And speaking about third column additional unit of measurement, they are also established in accordance with this convention as a special agreement on these issues. And the rate of customs duty is established in the last column. So it can be established in different form. That's why we can see here just explanation as percentage of customs value, either in euros or in US dollars. So types of customs duties in the Eurasian Economic Union. There are three types we are using in the common customs tariff: ad valorem, established as a percentage of the customs value of taxable goods; specific, established depending on the physical characteristic of taxable goods in kind as quantity, weight, volume, or other characteristics; and combined one, which actually combining both types specified in previous paragraphs. So speaking about ad valorem duties, its importance is accurately determined by customs value. And in the Eurasian Economic Union, customs value determination is based on the WTO agreement. For speaking about specific duties, it is important to accurately determine the quantity of goods. And specifically, some of measures for these purposes is used from the customs tariff from the third column as additional units of measurement for this kind of goods in accordance with the code number. And speaking about combined types of duties, there are two options for calculation. They can be used first of all as both two types, ad valorem plus specific duty calculation, or it can be used in the form of fiscal function as the largest option of both ad valorem or specific, the largest one. So speaking about other customs payments that should be done to cross the customs territory. So here is the limited number of payments. There are only 4. About first, we already discussed customs duty for export and for import. And it is important to mention that common customs tariff is used for importing. For exporting, customs duties are established on the national level by customs administration separately. So no dependence for the Eurasian Economic Union. And for value-added tax and excise tax, they are also established on the national basis for each country separately. That's why, and customs fees, the last one, always applicable. It is the only kind of payments which is using always, because not all kind of goods have customs duty and value-added tax, and all types of goods are provided with excise tax. But customs fees should be paid by all means. And within the Eurasian Economic Union, we have 3 types of these fees. First one is payable by all means is for customs clearance. And the second one for storage. We already mentioned about temporary storage. And the third one for escort during customs transit if it is necessary. As far as I hope you know, customs territory of the Eurasian is very big. That's why transit is very frequently used. That's why this payment also can be used. All this, the amount of this payment depends on the contract price. And the next one, methods of determining the amount of customs payment. I already mentioned about customs duties, ad valorem specific and combined. Speaking about VAT specifically for Russia, it is a fixed rate and amount to 22%, but also we have some discount for some kind of range goods, and there are some goods for which we are not paying VAT. All this in accordance with the special tax code of the country, and specifically for Russian Federation, we have our special tax code where these amounts of rates for specific goods we can find. The same information in the tax code we can find about the size of excise tax, as it is a federal indirect tax that the government levies on the sale of certain goods, such kind of alcohol, tobacco, fuel, automobiles, and etc. And customs fees are already mentioned. And speaking about benefits and preferences when paying customs duties, also we have different kind of preferences that can be and benefits. For example, input customs duty exemptions in the form of tariff exemptions. It can be export customs duty exemptions for some kind of goods. There can be in the form of tax exemptions. There can be in the form of customs duty exemptions, for example. So all these benefits on the payments of export customs duties and benefits on the payments of taxes, as well as benefits on the payment of customs duties and the exemptions are established by the national legislation of the member state. And tariff preferences are granted in accordance with the Treaty on the Union and the Union's international treaties with the third parties, providing for the application of the free trade regime, and tariff preferences are restored in cases and under conditions determined by the Commission or the Eurasian Economic Union. So these are the main information on the topic of our today lecture. And here is on the last slide, you can see main resources and sources of information where basic information on the issue of international trade and foreign economic activity and different kind of entrepreneurship with the Eurasian Economic Union can be found on these three official websites, and this information is available. The only things that unfortunately not all information is available in English because all member countries are Russian-speaking countries. That's why not all documents are translated in English. But nevertheless, I think today is not difficult to translate it dramatically in English. Nevertheless, these resources is available free of charge, and you can use it just to get more information on our today's lecture. So thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any questions, I will be glad to answer them.
Lovely. Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. That was indeed very timely planned as well. 45 minutes, sharp 45 minutes. You are excellent in this. And the outcome, the impact that we anticipated out of this session, it was 100% met. It was eye opener. In fact, I'm very honest in mentioning this. We never had a session on international trade, tariffs, and customs and the duties. So I think this was well planned, well timed event. I'm glad that I connected with you at the right time because this has been a topic of the world, not just the town, topic of the world. And having understanding as a business management student, I think this was wonderful. Thank you so much, Professor Galina. On your behalf, I will also take certain questions from my students. And here it is. So, yeah, how does the common custom tariff of the EAEU benefit the member countries compared to having individual national tariffs?
So, actually, there are no custom formalities between countries, only statistical accountings of turnover of goods between countries are used, and that's why each country receives a set percentage of total amount of customs duties paid on imported goods into the customs budget, uniform budget of the Eurasian Economic Union, and this makes it in everyone's interest to develop trade with third parties because there is no barriers between us and there is a unified and established mechanism how to share benefits for all the countries. That's why I think Erica is benefit from this unit. Okay.
That's indeed great. Do you think this will also bring in a lot of competition? And how do you see this? Like, for example, some of the custom duties are not applied within EAU countries. How does the union ensure fair competition among the member states?
Fair competition is provided as far as we have the uniform and established treaty, and each country have absolutely the same range of rights, the same range of duties, and the same abilities to work with each other, no restrictions on the customs border. In this situation, each country have the opportunity to work on the territory of another country within the unit, no limits. That's why it is a very easy and a very compatible procedure for any country just to get in much more competitiveness, just using a comparative advantage of another country, not only there. That's why we are speaking that it will be very beneficial for any and compatible for any country. They can use it for their purpose.
That's great. Perfect. Well said. How about the challenges faced by the businesses while complying with the custom regulation in the EAEU?
So actually, there is no internal problems because there is a single body as
Right.
Eurasian Economic Committee, which is actually operating constantly just for permanent working and developing a unified mechanism. There is a special mechanism for decision making. Also, in the issues or some kind of disputes between countries, we have also a special body as EAEU court, and it is established as a special organ for resolving disputes between our countries, and it is working just physically on the territory of Belarus, and everybody can just ask the court to solve the disputes if there can be. It can be any organization, any physical person, or customs administration. So all disputes will be solved.
Wow. Perfect. This is a very important question. How does the EAEU balance between tariff and non-tariff measures in regulating foreign trade? This is always a
So
challenge.
yes, thank you for this question. This question is very important for international trade,
Right.
and it is important to mention that four countries of the EAEU are members of the World Trade Organization beyond Belarus. So only Belarus are not a member. That's why all this mechanism is absolutely on the base of the World Trade Organization agreements. So mainly we are using tariff regulative mechanism. If we are using different kind of non-tariff, only on the basis in accordance with the World Trade Organization. And if we are speaking about customs tariff, the main form of the payments on the basis of ad valorem duties, which is used the mechanism of determining customs value of the World Trade Organization. So there is no exemptions and no any other mechanism that are violating rules of the international law established in the World Trade Organization. That's why prohibitions and restrictions are applied primarily due to compliance with the obligations under various international conventions and agreements. No specific restrictions, just for obstacle of international trade, only in accordance with the international law. Thank you.
Correct. Okay. In India, while we always talk about international trade or foreign trade, one question that always arises is what about domestic industries? Because we had real problems of dumping and other things in the past. So,
Mhm.
considering this, I would love to ask you, with regard to EAEU, what role do anti-dumping and protective measures play in safeguarding the domestic industries with the EAEU? That's also equally responsible activity of a government to also ensure there is domestic industries are protected. So, how this balancing happens?
So these measures are also, as I mentioned previously, are applied fully in accordance with the WTO agreement. All these three kind of measures as anti-dumping and others, all on the basis of the WTO agreement. And total, for example, nowadays, just today checked, we have only 27 measures in effect and 10 investigations. So these measures can't be used just directly, only after investigation in accordance with the World Trade Organization law. And one of the most frequently use is anti-dumping measure, and so these 27 measures we are using nowadays is in the form of anti-dumping. If we are speaking about what kind of goods are under this measure, they are mainly metal and metal products, equipment and plastic products, which these kind of goods are most frequently are just possessing different kind of self-protective measures that are great interest for the economy of our countries. And if we're speaking about countries for which these measures are used, mainly it is China, but also we have some measures for Georgia, for Malaysia, for example, if we're speaking relevant situation.
Right, lovely. Um, how do you think the tariff preferences for developing countries impact trade relations between EAEU and other nations as well? What do you think?
So, tariff preferences is a very important instrument for international trade. You know
Correct.
that most of the countries in the world are developing, and that's why this mechanism is have dual purposes. First of all, political, and the second of all, one is economic. If we are speaking about first function, we have a special list of countries for which we are given these preferences, and separately for developing and least developed. If we are speaking about relevant situation, most of the countries for which these preferences are providing are least developed countries. And last number is, as far as I know, there is nearly 50 countries nowadays, least developed countries, are getting these preferences. And also we have special list for goods, not only for country, but for goods from these countries. And this is another mechanism. Actually, is the first one, list of country, is a political. For the economic issues, we have this list of goods. Specific goods for developing and specific goods for least developed countries. And this provided an economic cooperation between our countries, and are very effective both for both sides too.
That's great. I always feel the most important challenge in an international trade is the documentation and declaration, which is a bigger challenge for any of the country for that matter. So, what are the most common mistakes you think that companies make with regard to custom documentations and declaration? That's very, very vital. And do you think any companies make mistakes intentionally or it is unintentional?
So actually, the main mistakes is based just on the situation that companies are not checking legislation. That's why we have quite transparency and strict mechanism what should be done to cross the customs border. And moreover, nowadays we are doing all this work in the electronic form, and on the base of different special programs which have a special mechanism to help to do it properly. And that's why if we are speaking about most critical issues, I should mention about classification issue using all the HS, because there is some kind of disputes within World Customs Organization and also within EAEU. That's why there can be, but actually it is not a mistake. This is just the issue for the customs sphere, and that's why you should be ready for these issues and check the classification issue for the country. Are there any special regulative and special classification decision? And classification and HS code for any country is the basic for payment, is the basis for the documents that should be provided to fulfill all prohibitions and restrictions and all permissions to enter the customs territory. That's why the main mistake is to check the legislation and check classification. So.
Right. When it comes to EAEU, I'm very sure transparency is very key. I mean, it plays a very vital role. So, how
Mhm.
does EAEU ensures transparency and uniformity in all the custom procedures across the member countries?
So the uniformity based on the issue that we have the uniform customs code,
Right.
where established 17 customs procedures, no other procedures. All formalities that should be done to fulfill these procedures is established in the custom code, and absolutely open to anybody to read and check what you should do to use this or that procedure, for example, for export, for transit, what documents, and what should be done. That's why it absolutely transparent and uniform, and transparency is based on the issues that if there can be some kind of violation, we have the opportunity each time to get to the court and to solve the dispute on the legality or illegality of the decision of customs authorities. Moreover, we have this opportunity on the national level. We have this opportunity on the supranational level too. So if there will be some kind of violating, it will be settled in accordance with the law of the Eurasian Economic Union. Okay?
Right. I think we are bang on the time, and with your permission, I take up the last questions with you. So far it has been so good to EAEU, no doubt about it, but there are a lot of issues happening across the world. So considering this, in the future, how do you see EAEU evolving in terms of global trade competitiveness and economic integration as well? How do you see it?
So, as far as I mentioned at the beginning of my lecture, that Eurasian Economic Union is just a developing of the previous economic integration as customs union. Moreover, previously in the 90s, there was established a Commonwealth of Independent States as a form of economic integration, so as a free trade zone. So actually, Eurasian Economic Union is just a developing of economic integration. And moreover, if we are now existing in this form within 12 years, and the economic data shows us that it's absolutely successful and profitable for any country of the Eurasian Economic Union. That's why we can say that there is a positive future for the Eurasian Economic Union. So, because each country demonstrates economically high potential just existing in this union. Moreover, we have some countries as observers to this union. For example, Uzbekistan is looking just and thinking maybe they will also become a member of the union, just getting these preferences with customs border, and just to cross the customs border and to omit all these formalities, and it will increase the opportunity for economic development of the country, and also for the Eurasian Economic Union it will be one more opportunity to develop their economy on the territory of another country. So actually, there is no uniform approach for these issues in international practice. For example, the EU and the recent Brexit, I think you know. So each time for each integration it is just a creative work of states in search of the most economically and efficient mechanism for integration. And the only answer for the future is the answer in economic issues. So if it is positive, so it is will be profitable and it will be positive in the future.
That's great. I mean, you're very optimistic about it, considering all the issues that's ongoing. That's how we should be. Let's hope that the days in the future will be more better, not just geopolitically, but also in terms of the international trade and whatever associated with that. Lovely. It's sharp 1 hour of the session. Wonderful interacting with you, Professor Galina. It was such a pleasure. As I said, the discussion on the very important topic happened for the very first time, and it has come out at the very right time, and we couldn't have any better person than you. For those who don't know much, she is associate professor at the university at the Interparliamentary Assembly of Eurasian, and she's also the professor at St. Petersburg Polytechnic University. The PhD candidate with a topic that absolutely suits her, which has been an area of expertise. She is also the member of the delegation of the Federal Customs Service of the Russia to the committees on the harmonized system of description and coding of goods, and also subcommittees on of the World Customs Organization. Above all, she has authored more than 100 scientific publication, and she is a regular participant in conferences which is on international trade and customs and tariffs. So that's the whole reason why I was able to pitch in Professor Galina, and with a couple of discussions, she all agreed, and here it is. Today she delivered one of the most important and the most impactful session for all of us. We are so glad, Professor Galina. I really look forward to having you once in my campus one day in Bangalore, in India, to discuss in person and on the topic that has always been your the area of expertise. So, well, on behalf of all the students out here, let me thank Professor Galina Fertova for a wonderful time with us from Russia on a topic that was her choice, but also at the same time very important for us to understand the way the things are going today. So, on behalf of my students, staff, and all the management, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to you once again for this brilliant session. I definitely look forward to having many more such interactions with you in the coming days with the varieties of batches of GIBS. For now, thank you so much, Professor Galina. And those of us who have not yet liked or subscribed, please do like in all our social media platforms, uh, GIBS Business School and GIBS IRE Talks. And very soon, this session of Professor Galina will be uploaded in your official YouTube channel. So you can get away once again and find out if you have missed out any vital information. You can always go and check back. Well, thank you so much, Galina. It was all honor to have hosted you. I wish you a great, fantastic afternoon and evening ahead. This is Professor Guru Prasad Rao signing off, and thank you for watching.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It was a very, for me, a great chance to share and to be with you this time. Thank you for your this opportunity. I'm very much glad and for your kind words. Thank you very much.
Likewise. Thank you, Galina. Looking forward. Thank you.
Yeah.